Amir Alwani here for Potent News. We're here with Michel Chossudovsky, and we're having a little chat. And so I believe we were talking about basically the protests that are happening here, that were started up by the Adbusters initially. Now I got a couple questions. Are you encouraged by by what's happening, by what you see happening with the protests?
Well, I'm encouraged by the fact that people across the United States and Canada are rising up against an economic and political agenda, and they are the victims of the neoliberal agenda. I'm not encouraged by the way this Occupy Wall Street movement is proceeding, because it was initiated by a couple of organizations, Adbusters, which is a magazine in Vancouver, and the other one was Anonymous, a social media hacktivist website which does not reveal its identity in any way. I think the problem is that these promoters of the Occupy Wall Street movement have been actively planning a whole network of activities across America with social media, websites and so on for several months. In fact, the Occupy Wall Street website was launched, I think, back in July. We don't know who these people are. When we go to their websites, there's no contact information. We don't know who the leaders are. These are shadow leaders. Now, what is coming out of the movement is we don't need leaders. We are the leaders. But in effect, any organization which challenges Wall Street and wants to yield some form of concrete results has to have a very solid organizational structure. You don't go and fight against Wall Street, because Wall Street is organized, okay? Wall Street is organized. Wall Street is a whole structure, institutions, banks, insurance companies, and then linked up to intelligence, and then linked up to the US government. So if you want to change the tide, you have to organize, and you have to organize in a very solid way. You have to have a program. You can't just have a program which says, please Mr. Bush or Mr. Obama, okay, or whoever happens to be in power, could you be more gentle, have less wars, could you tax the rich? You don't demand of a system which is in crisis and which should be replaced and reformed. You don't ask the leaders to act on your behalf. That's rule number one. Those leaders have to be unseated, because they are the problem. They're not the solution. And it's no use presenting a shopping list of demands and then submitting it to the US government or to Wall Street or to Warren Buffett. Now, what troubles me in this movement is that there is a covert element with organizations such as Anonymous and Adbusters, as well as the main websites. Who is behind it? Who is financing it? I recall that immediately when the movement got going, that several prominent personalities came to the support of Occupy Wall Street. And these were people like Warren Buffett, Howard Buffett, Ben Bernanke, Al Gore, Now these people, from my standpoint, do not constitute the solution to the crisis. They are the cause. They are the actors behind this crisis. Warren Buffett is the third richest man on planet Earth, and his sympathy for the movement should be viewed with some suspicion. That's the way I see it. Now, I should also mention another organization, which is OTPOR. OTPOR was an organization involved in Serbia in the year 2000. It was not a pro-democracy organization. It was actually an organization which shunted the 2000 elections, in which Kostanica, who was the runner-up together with Milosevic, would have won in any event, but they prevented the second round of the election from occurring, and they essentially established the conditions for regime change. That was a colored revolution. And OTPOR subsequently became a consulting firm, which is called Canvas. It's non-violent forms of action, which were implemented in a large number of countries. Canvas, its logo is the clenched fist, okay? And they were involved in Georgia, they were involved in various former Soviet republics, they were involved in Iran, they were involved in Egypt, in Tunisia. They've provided consulting to so-called revolutionary groups, but they are also backed by Freedom House and the National Endowment for Democracy, which are US foundations closely allied with both with the State Department on the one hand, the US Congress, as well as US intelligence. So that in effect, Canvas is really acting as a consulting arm of the US intelligence apparatus, supporting a training program of Canvas. Now we know that the Egyptian leaders of the protest movement, of the Arab Spring, of the so-called Arab Spring, they were trained in Belgrade. They were trained by OTPOR. And it should come as no surprise that the clenched fist was used also in Egypt, and it was used in a number of countries. It's of interest that the name of the resistance movement in Georgia was Enough, okay? Enough. And in Egypt, the Kefaya movement in Arabic also means enough. So that in fact you find the same names, the same logos, the same catchphrases in several countries. And this is no coincidence, because Canvas is operating as a professional consulting arm, assisting the movements in various countries. Now, what this suggests is that this movement, at least the grassroots of this movement, which are committed people, we have to acknowledge that. These are people we should support. People in the street, people who are unemployed, students who can't pay their tuition fees, people who are committed to social change. We must support them. But they are being manipulated by a framework which from the very outset is pernicious, because it's based on links to the seat of power. In other words, if it's linked to the National Endowment for Democracy or to Freedom House or to the CIA, it cannot have an independent stance in going after Wall Street. And then the question is, who is funding this undertaking? You cannot challenge Wall Street and then ask Wall Street to pay for your travel expenses.